Hello, dear friends. There are too much important news to summarize, but I have tried it as best as I can. Opinion piece. Mysteries of CERN. We'll get through this. Warriors for peace. July is the month of Sirius. Iraq is the first domino. Twilight of the Kali Yuga. The violent will not ascend. End point of the age of chaos. Do not yield your power to any leader. Salvation is a very personal thing. Don't be your brother's keeper. This is not the great reset of Davos. The economic situation is very critical. The economy is going into recession. Euro falls to lowest level in 2 decades. Let's start. The Storm Radar has published a series of pieces explaining the experiments conducted by the European Organization for Nuclear Research called CERN and their possible link to the current crisis. This information matches a series of startling photos taken at a Large Hadron Collider that has been published in the British newspaper, The Sun. I have raised the hypothesis that new portals are opening. The images were apparently taken on 24th June, the same day that scientists at CERN began a new experiment called Awake to change the way particles are smashed together. What is in the cloud above the center appears to be a lightning bolt or a huge ball of energy. The LHC near Geneva, Switzerland, is the world's largest particle collider. Was built between 1998 and 2008 and allows physicists to test various theories. In the past, CERN has conducted experiments to create artificial clouds to better understand the weather. Starting today, the Large Hadron Collider particle accelerator will begin smashing protons together at unprecedented energy levels after more than 3 years of repairs, but it is said to be taken over by the White Hats to avoid reckless experiments. New cycle. July is the season of Sirius, says Celiafin. This is the time of the year when the sun rises in the sky in conjunction with Sirius in the northern hemisphere. It is when the Earth has 2 suns, a golden white sun and a blue-white sun, which is Sirius. It celebrates the close and ancient connection between the Earth and the stellar schools of Sirius and the stellar lions and lionesses. Ancient Egypt also celebrated the rising of the Nile and the beginning of a new cycle of abundance that was linked to the sacred river. For us too, it is the moment of the beginning of a new cycle of time. Cosmic forces intensify according to Dr. Xavi. Since the summer solstice and winter solstice in the northern and southern hemispheres, which peaked on June 21st, 2022, electromagnetic plasma particles have been shooting into our planet's magnetosphere, driven by strong solar winds, which in turn are driven by the energy of the great central sun. People all over the world have reported the following: nausea, vomiting, dizziness, migraine-like headache, stuffy ears, ringing in the ears, strange tingling sensation in the scalp, itchy skin, inability to sleep well at night, enormous fatigue, anxiety, and more. May have rushed to the hospital emergency rooms only to discover that nothing was wrong and that all aspects of the physical system were in order. Experiments. Some people believe that the challenges described are the result of humankind's manipulation of nature, such as the experiments conducted by the European Organization for Nuclear Research called CERN, which is composed of 21 member countries with 2 associate member countries. CERN's purpose is to produce particle acceleration, the creation of nuclear colliders to be able to travel in and out of various dimensions, and to control the function of the human brain. Its program costs many billions of dollars. In fact, CERN has successfully achieved some of its goals, the result of which has been to open dangerous portals. The increase in electromagnetic frequency is the divinely created process that is cleansing from our galaxy and solar system not only thousands of years of toxic experiences, but also the current disharmonies of this twilight of the Kali Yuga, end point of the age of chaos, when conditions are most critical on the planet. Mysteries of the CERN. Stunning photos taken at CERN's Large Hadron Collider lead to new conspiracy theories that portals are opening according to the Sun. In early 2012, operations began to infiltrate the CERN facility and map the underground tunnel systems connecting the European continent to the world using very fast magnetic levitation trains. Since early 2014, the operations have destroyed extensive networks of underground tunnels. By 2014, more than 300 operators had infiltrated CERN operations as workers, technicians, engineers, and scientists, and by 2014, the first tectonic weapons were used to collapse the tunnel systems connecting France, Italy, and Austria to the underground head of Lake Geneva. Operations were conducted from Norway via Germany. By 2017, special forces dismantled the sabotage inside CERN and the outer tunnel corridor that housed nuclear power, and a brief battle took place under Lake Geneva. By midsummer, the supercomputer was in the hands of the White Hats. By 2019, White Hat operations took full control of CERN. The technology inside CERN is deeply connected to the technology of the Roswell crash and Tesla's classified inventions related to train travel and opening portals. The European Organization for Nuclear Research, commonly known by the acronym CERN, it is to say European Organization for Nuclear Research, is a research organization that operates the world's largest particle physics laboratory. The organization has 22 member states and is observed by the United Nations. Israel is the only non-European country with a full membership granted. The laboratory is located in Switzerland, near the border with France, between the commune of Saint-Denis-Pouilly in the department of Ain and the commune of Mainry in the canton of Geneva. As an international facility, CERN is not officially under French or Swiss jurisdiction. The member states jointly contribute $1 billion annually. Collective awakening. We are fast approaching the moment of humankind's collective awakening, says Sol via Jones Smallman. I know we have already spoken, and often, about the imminence of this magnificent and wondrous event. This is because it is essential to stand ready to respond as it happens. You all know that time is an aspect of illusion, and therefore it is illusory and unreal, and that there is only the now. So continue to expect it to happen very soon, now, and continue to set the intention to always be loving whatever may arise in your daily life, knowing that you are making it happen. And that is why you are currently incarnated. You are massively assisting those who are deeply asleep to enter and participate in your collective awakening process. The awakening of the sleepers is crucial, for you do not want anyone to remain asleep and dreaming, and your power to help awaken them is enormous. Warriors of Peace. Archangel Michael's message to the Angelic Warrior Group. Much progress has occurred in many areas of the world. Countries are signing up for the new financial system, and they have been warned that they cannot be at war, otherwise they would remain in the fiat system and continue on a lower timeline. This doesn't mean that they would disappear from the map. It means that these areas could be uninhabited when the world is raised to the fifth dimension. These countries would only exist in the third dimension at the time of the event. They wouldn't move forward until they meet Gisara's requirements. So, again, I ask you to meditate for peace in the city of your choice this week. You must go in peace to the higher dimensions, or else ascension will not occur. Those who seek to fight or cause unrest will not ascend. The fifth dimension requires a peaceful mindset, not one of anger and conflict. It is a frequency of cooperation and respect for all others. Before you consider picking up a weapon, remember your ascension process and whether it is more important to deliver justice. Peace on Earth. This planet will not remain in a frequency range where conflict exists in the future, says Steve Biko. As we ascend, our timeline will separate from the existing one, leaving hostile forces on a different plane. That in itself will restore harmony in the world, but more than that, we will enter a range of experience and a state of consciousness where the conflict that is occurring at this moment will simply drop off the radar, with no one wanting to interact with it again or even remember it. No one immersed in the ocean of higher dimensional love would want to lift a finger in anger. There would be no anger, and there would be no conversation about it, because the topic will have been absent from the discussion forever. In the meantime, in our communities, what we must do is begin to rebuild the social capital of goodwill. Take on the problem of homelessness. See that a high level of care is available to all, free from submission. Reset News. About to ring the alarm clock of indictments and arrests, the new Russian gold ban could blow up the paper gold market that has been suppressing the price of gold for decades. X22 report. The central bank is no longer hiding in the economic shadows, pretending nothing is happening. Inflation around the world is rising very fast. People are feeling the pain and politicians don't care. This has already failed. Benjamin Fulford believes that the European energy crisis is actually an economic war by the BRICS countries to make the globalists surrender, and that the BRICS bloc would go to cut off oil to the European Union and Japan next autumn to force their surrender and accept a new United Nations. Several of the world's major economies are warned to enter recession in the next 12 months as central banks take steps to tighten monetary policy in a bid to combat rising inflation, according to Rob Subaram, chief economist at Japanese brokerage Nomura Holdings. Currently, central banks have adopted a single mandate, which is to reduce inflation, Subaraman said. The credibility of monetary policy is too valuable an asset to lose, so they are going to be very aggressive, he added. Iraq. Charlie Watts tells Sheila Smith that the first domino is Iraq. A year and a half ago, Iraq was not sitting where they are sitting today. Today, they have put themselves on a platform where they can compete internationally. So, I think it could happen at any time because of the reinstitution of the banks, the high price of oil that they are getting per barrel. They have upgraded all their ATMs to be able to handle the volume. They are setting up a lot of new businesses for trade and tourists. Just this week, they bought more in the gold reserve. We are seeing a lot of very positive directions for them, especially their payment to Kuwait. The Central Bank of Iraq revealed on Saturday the size of gold reserves in the country, and although it suspected foreign exchange reserves to reach $90 billion, it confirmed that it was not possible to change the exchange rate yet. Not Davos. This is not the great reset of Davos, adds Charlie Ward. They are desperate to push it and it's failing. Just keep your eyes on the goal. We are in a very special place right now. The destination remains exactly the same as it was 2.5 years ago. This is part of restoring the world economy for the better, not for the enslavement of humankind. This is an amazing journey. You have all been part of it. It has been absolutely wonderful. Just remember, as we began, Jesus loves you, even if everyone else thinks you are completely crazy. According to Jo Osabin, the greatest revival in the history of the world is coming. We have more of hell to see in the coming days, weeks and months. It is far from over. There are dramas ahead. The world needs to cry out to Almighty God at the individual level of each person. Do not yield your personal power to any leader or pastor. Salvation is a very personal thing. Even salvation from these circumstances, even being able to weather the storm and make it through your personal home and family. That is a very personal conversation with God Himself. Everyone needs to be in prayer. What should I do? Don't ask a guru. Don't ask me. Don't ask anyone. Ask God. By the way, the greatest revival in history will come after we clean our own house. We are going out. We are not going to try to be our brother's keeper, like that group that is trying to take control of us. We are going to be our brother's brother and help the rest of the world. The fight is on. It starts right here at home with us. We are the first at bat. Supply crisis. Export of wheat and sunflower oil from Ukraine increase. Oil tumbles as recession fears cloud the demand outlook. Venezuelan and Iranian oil could ease the energy crisis. Fuel distribution centers are now blocked in the Netherlands. Several supermarkets in the Netherlands have been blocked by farmers. Protests on British motorways over rising fuel prices. Sky News Australia covers the Dutch farmers' protests and supports their stance. while the rest of the media turns a blind eye. Fuel price demonstrations begin in the UK as angry motorists say that they can't go on like this. A glitch in American Airlines staffing systems left 12,000 flights without pilots between 3rd July and the end of the month, as fed-up travelers face flight cancellations and delays around the world. United Nations warns of potential food crisis of a Russian maritime blockade. Steel production continues in Ukraine after the destruction of Azovstal. Economy. Recession fears push dollar to its biggest gain since 2020. Gold falls more than 2% in sell-off triggered by dollar strength. As Bitcoin shows no signs of life and consumer prices soar, there will be only one place to run: precious metals, gold for the banks and silver for the public. European stocks fall as rising gas prices fuel inflation fears. Bank of England tells lenders to brace for economic storm. Bond Greyer says this implosion will be quick. Hold on to your seats. Investors will be surprised by the speed of the fall and will not react before it is too late. Is Saudi Arabia negotiating to join the BRICS? If Saudi Arabia joins the BRICS, it is game over for the petrodollar, as 2/3 of the world's population will have the option to buy energy in their native currency. As the world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia is the linchpin of the petrodollar system. Ethereum risk remains bearish and may fall 37%. The printing press is not working according to Acadia Economics. Thanks to the Fed's recent rate hikes, something is now happening to the money supply that has not happened since September 2008. It also happened in October 1987 and July 1929. The money supply is shrinking on a quarterly basis. The printing presses have finally stopped, and that means asset prices of all kinds are about to be crushed. USA. There are many fake events planned for July according to the Storm Rider. Cyber group Killnet says it has launched a cyber attack. Ray Dalio warns that the West will pay a heavy price for the conflict in Ukraine. Donald Trump may soon announce his candidacy. Saint-Germain is said to have been present at the signing of the Declaration of Independence and was known as the Professor. He urged hesitant delegates to sign. 4 bodies of dead greys were lifted by crane and transported after the Roswell UFO crash, a retired policeman claims. Europe. Tension on stock markets and the euro on fears of global recession. The euro falls to its lowest level in 2 decades on fears of a recession. The ECB is looking for ways to prevent a rate hike from triggering a shower of millions for banks. Italy declares a state of emergency in 5 northern regions amid the worst drought in 70 years. The regions are Emilia-Romagna, Friuli-Venezia Giulia, Lombardy, Veneto, and Piedmont. Tens of thousands of Macedonians demand a tougher stance on Bulgaria. Flooding in southeastern Australia forces the evacuation of thousands of residents. Spain. Spain approves an additional €1 billion for defense. The Spanish stock market falls 0.17% as electricity companies and banks fall. The fall of the banking sector
led by CaixaBank, Sabadell and Repsol, wipes out the 8,000 points of the IBEX 35. Repsol could return to annual highs above 16 euros. The closure of ATMs leaves more than 1 million Spaniards without access to cash. The average daily expenditure of foreign tourists soars to 177 euros. 11 communities on alert for high temperatures and strong storms. 26 municipalities accumulate half of the local debt, while 5,000 owe nothing. Algerian hydrocarbon company Sonatrach will review the price of gas in new agreements. Ecologists demand the return of night trains in their pajamas. Melilla and Texas demonstrate the failure of migration policies. The United Nations envoy cancels his visit to Western Sahara because of Morocco's obstruction. Americas. Latin America is caught off guard by the supply, trade and inflation crisis. Alberto Fernandez calls emergency meeting after mass resignation at Economy Ministry. Silvina Batakis will be Argentina's new economy minister. Former Argentine naval officer is found guilty of the 1972 Trelew massacre. Iberdrola obtains a suspension of its fine from the Mexican electricity regulator. Mexico's internet using population rises to 75.6% in 2021. Caravan in Mexico dissolves as it begins handing over immigration documents. The tragedy in Texas reflects an increase in human trafficking in Mexico. Guatemala doesn't rule out the possibility of more Guatemalans dying in the Texas tragedy. Peru's Congress steps up its offensive against Castillo. A 4.2 magnitude earthquake shakes the Lima region without causing damage. Coca leaf-based toothpaste, the Bolivian government's innovative bid to industrialize the ancient plant. Ecuador's president to change his economy minister after protests. Tourism resumes in half of the world after being halted by protests in Ecuador. Tropical storm warning for Tropical Storm Bonnie ends in Colombia. Patricia Ariza to become Colombia's Minister of Culture. Petro adds 3 more women to his cabinet by appointing his Ministers of Agriculture, Health and Environment. Maduro's enemies flee Colombia for fear of persecution. Bonnie leaves Nicaragua, but authorities say the threat remains. More than 40,000 subscribers without power in Puerto Rico during the passage of a tropical wave. Panama's international banking center's assets and profits grow. Cuba loses its economic military czar, Luis Alberto Rodríguez López Calleja. Lavrov welcomes the gradual normalization of the situation in Venezuela. Employees of Brazil's central bank end strike. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.